Hi there, welcome back to our channel After the Move. If this is your first time here, thank you for joining us. If you are returning, we are so grateful. If you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, please hit that subscribe button below and feel free to share our videos with your family and friends who you know are interested in migrating to Canada. Today, we will be looking at improving your CRS score. And if your CRS score is okay, we will also be looking at the next steps that you need to take in order to begin the express entry process. Before we jump right into it, let us do a quick recap. So far, we have looked at the express entry system, we have calculated our CRS score, and we have looked how this score ranks us in the express entry pool. That will tell us whether or not, based on the current circumstances, our score is a good score or not. So if it is that when you did your calculation, your CRS score was not great, you may have lost points for a variety of factors, have no fear. There are ways that you can improve your CRS score. In our last video, we looked at the different factors that contributed to the CRS score. There are some things that we can change, such as our level of education or language ability, but there are some things that we can't change, such as our age. So, what are some of the ways that we can improve our CRS score if this score was not favorable? Well, I am just going to give you a brief insight, and you can use this information and go and do further research, because all of these ways will require for you to do some serious investing. You have to decide based on the investment required if this is something that really is worth it for you. You can also watch other YouTubers who will share on life in Canada, which is something that we will also do after we complete this process to give you a balanced view of everything. So let's get to it. The first way is that you can gain work experience. So if it is that you're just starting out in your career, you have, say, 1 year of foreign work experience, which is the work experience they refer to in your home country, then you can continue working in your job and get that experience, and that will get you more points. You can apply for the provincial nominee program. This is a program that is run by the different provinces where they look for in-demand occupations. And if your occupation is on that list, you can apply to the program. And if you get nominated, you automatically receive 600 points, which is basically a guaranteed entry into the next express entry draw. But if it is that you are going to do this, there are fees and costs associated with this. So you will have to go further. So you will have to research which province you want to go to, what are their in-demand skills, and to see if you qualify. So you have to go and do some further research. Another thing that we could do is that we could improve our qualifications. Now, we saw where the points given for education qualifications improved based on your level. So say, for example, you have completed your bachelor's degree, you can go right ahead and apply for a master's if that's what you want to do. But if it is that you're only applying for a master's because you want to go to Canada, then I once again say to you, do your research to see if that investment that you will make, because masters aren't cheap, is worth it at this time to put yourself under undue stress in this moment just to get that qualification. You can apply to go to school in Canada. When you apply to go to school in Canada, you are in a whole other league because, one, although when you are applying, the intent is not initially to live in Canada, but there is an opportunity and a benefit to go in the school route. So when you apply to school in Canada, you get points for your Canadian qualification. You also get points for maybe Canadian experience, and that depends if you're able to get a job in your field after graduating. You also move into a different category of the Express Entry program where we saw earlier, the Canadian experience class, and that is an added benefit. But the costs associated with school, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. So there are many testimonials of students who have migrated to Canada on YouTube. I would advise you to go on their channel, go on YouTube, Life in Canada for Students, and see if this is something that you want to do. I think those are the main ways that you can improve your CRS score. If anybody can think of any other ways, feel free to drop them in the comment section below. Your CRS score is good. What should you do next? Well, I'm going to cover those in the next steps, but just to give you a brief overview, the first thing I would recommend is to review the program documents, schedule your IELTS exam, get your credentials evaluated by WES, complete your Express Entry profile, and then wait for an invitation to apply. Google documents for Express Entry. And when you Google that, a Canada CA site comes up, you click on that. You may not need to upload all of these documents to submit a profile, but you may need information from some or all of these documents. So you will need to have a passport or a travel document. You will need to have language test results. You know how when we were playing with the CRS calculator, we could input language test results. You can't actually do that when you're creating your real profile. You have to do an actual test to get your language test results, right? So if it is that you have Canadian education, you need to provide proof of Canadian education or an educational credential assessment report for immigration purposes. So you provide this if you are applying through the Federal Skilled Workers Program or you want to get points for the education that you got outside of Canada. If you have a provincial nomination, which we spoke about earlier as a way to improve your score, then you can include that. If you have a written job offer from an employer in Canada, you can add that. You need to have proof of your work experience, certification of qualification in a trade occupation issued by a Canadian province or territory if you have one, and proof of funds. No, there are certain things that you will need to have if they invite you to apply. And we start forward to go back so that we don't waste our time at any point in time. So the first thing that they will need your police certificate. So if you have a criminal record, chances are you may have to get that sorted. I can't say if they allow any crimes at all. I can't say if it is that you have a misdemeanor or whatever the case may be that you won't be allowed entry. I don't know, but you will need to do that. You will also need to do a medical exam because they don't want you to have any condition that can put undue stress on their medical facilities. So you can research the different illnesses that they consider. I know some common ones that persons may have are not necessarily a deal breaker for them. So you will just have to look and have a medical officer that they will tell you where to go past that. What I really zeroed in on this for was proof of funds. And I'm going to click that and we're going to scroll down to how much money you will need, because the amount of money that you will need to show the government of Canada will vary based on your family size. And to calculate the size of your family, you must include yourself, your spouse or partner, your dependent children, and your spouse's dependent children, right? You should include your spouse or dependent children even if they're permanent residents or Canadian citizens, and even if they're not coming to Canada with you. And as at June 9, 2022, this is the minimum that you need to immigrate to Canada. If you have more money, they advise that you should list the full amount in your profile or application. So if you're coming to Canada by yourself, then you need to have 13,310 Canadian dollars as proof of funds. If it is that you have two family members, yourself and your child or yourself and your spouse, then that amount is $16,570. If it is that there are three of you, then you see that it is $20,371. So you will look and see, based on your family structure, how much money that you need. So what they accept as proof, funds must be readily available to you. So if you have a house, you can't use that as proof of funds because a house is not liquid money, right? You also can't borrow this money from a person. You should be able to use this money to pay the cost of living for your family, even if they are not coming with you. Because when you apply, I believe that you are able to bring your children up on sponsorship and stuff afterwards if they're not coming with you. But they just want to ensure that you're able to do the proof of funds. The proof of funds we will be looking at in further detail once we get to the invitation to apply, because there are ways that you can meet the proof of funds even if you don't, say, have the liquid cash in your bank account. For example, if you work in the private sector and you make a voluntary contribution to your pension fund, you can use this pension fund as proof of funds without leaving your job. You would have to write them to say that this is the amount that is entitled to you upon resignation. So that is something that you can do. You are also able to get a gift deed from your immediate family. I think it's like parents, spouse. This is a gift that your family gives to you to say that, I'm giving this money for them to migrate to Canada or whatever. This is a gift, and I hold no claim to this fund, right? So if it is that you don't have the money right now, I would suggest that you start thinking about how to get the money, because once you are invited to apply, you have to provide a 6-month proof of funds in your bank account. If you're doing a gift deed, then you don't need to show it being in your bank account for 6 months. But outside of that, and if you're doing your pension, then you don't have to show it being in your bank account for 6 months. But any money that you're going to show in your bank account, it needs to have been there for 6 months. So if it is that you don't have the amount that they require, I would suggest that you work on getting that amount that they need, and then you apply, because you don't want to get the invitation and then you miss it and then your number is never drawn again. Okay? When I was doing my IELTS exam, I had to schedule it with the British Council based on my country that I was located. I am not sure if it is that there are other testing bodies that do the same thing in other countries, or if it all falls under the British Council. But you can do your research. There are many testing centers in different countries where you can get your IELTS exam done. But if you're in the Caribbean, for example, Jamaica, you can go on the Take IELTS British Council. I have to put the link in the description below under this video, and you can book a test. So you will see it will ask you to book a test in your country or territory, and there are many countries listed, and I'm going to select Jamaica. Once we scroll down to Jamaica, it says book your IELTS test in the Caribbean, dates, fees, and location. So we're going to click IELTS Jamaica. We can decide if we want to book a test now or if we want to look further. So let's see what the available test dates are. And an important thing to know, there's an academic test and a general test. For immigration purposes, through the Federal Skilled Worker Program Express Entry, the IELTS general training is required. So let's click find a test date. They're gonna ask which one you want to do, and you click the general. They will ask you where you want to do it. You can either do it at UE or you can do it at the Overseas Exams Commission. And if you're in Montego Bay, both areas are the same. No, I remember when I was doing mine, there were no dates in Kingston, so I had to hop on the Knutsford and go down to Montego Bay, but it's all up to you. So let's click UE. You have different formats. So if you want to do it on paper, if you want to do it on the computer, you can decide. So on paper, the results take 13 days. On the computer, it takes 3 to 5 days. And I think this goes to personal preference. I am somebody who prefers to have my test in front of me, where I can make my lines and cross and highlight the things that are important to me. I don't feel as flexible when I'm on a computer, but I've never done the IELTS on a computer, so I can't say how it compares, right? So you will decide which one works best for you. So we're going to look at when we would like to do our test. And it says, let me choose the dates. And then the other option is show me all the dates. Right? So we're going to go show me all the dates, and we're going to search by test. By date, sorry. There is an availability for March 25th. March 25th is over a month away. So you see that this is something that you have to get on. And then the next date after March 25th is April 29th, right? And then May 11th. They seem to be going like roughly once per month. So you have to go and look and see what the dates are and then book your test. Now, before we proceed any further, I just want to say, because this seems to be a popular misconception, that you're just going to say, oh, but my English is good, I can just go and do the exam. Yes, your English may be good, but I would still advise you to practice, to do some mock tests, because it's not so much about your ability in English. It might sound weird, but your ability to pass this test, because you're going to be given a lot to do in a little bit of time, and it is not as easy to do as you think. When you learn the strategies beforehand, when you're familiar with what to expect, I think that you perform better than going into the exam blindly. I would recommend, before you do this exam, that you actually prepare, because it might sound simple. It's an English test. I'm very good at English, but it's not so much you're being good at English. It is your ability to pass this test, because this test is designed to test certain skills. It's not a test that's designed to ask you present tense versus past tense, singular versus plural. No, it is testing your ability to use the language, how you communicate, how you listen, how you interact with language. And it might seem simple, it might sound simple, but take my foolish advice, as we say in Jamaica, prepare for your test. I'm going to post 2 links below that I used that helped me to do well in my exam, because when you do this, you get a better idea of what to expect. And when you go into the exam, you are able to perform better. All right, the final thing that we will cover today is getting your credentials evaluated. And this credential evaluation is done by World Education Services, otherwise known as WES, right? So let us look on the WES page. So you can Google World Education Services and you should see their site come up. Now, you will see what you need to do in order to get an evaluation. But I believe that their cost to do this evaluation when I did it was $240. I don't know if that has changed in recent times, but you can click get an evaluation and you will answer the questions. Where will you use your evaluation? You'll say Canada. All right, and you can say what is the purpose. So if it is that you're doing the West Standard application, that you're doing it for higher education licensing, then you can do the standard. If it is that you're applying for IRCC, which is what we're doing for immigration purposes, this one is one we will do. All right, so this is the one that we will do, the ECA, and ECA just stands for Education Credential Assessment by West. And then you just click Start Application. So you will put in your email, get the code, and then they will ask you about your degrees, and then they will advise you that you need to get your transcripts sent to them, copies of your degrees and so on. But they provide every instruction that you will need, and it's all very clear and easy. So West does take some time. When I was doing it, it took me 3 months to get my credentials assessed. So if it is that you meet the requirements, you have your proof of funds, then I would say go right ahead and start the process. Book your IELTS exam, send your credentials off to West to be evaluated. And once you get both of those back, then you can complete your express entry profile. We covered a lot today, so I'm not going to go any further in this video. If it is that you're in this process, feel free to pause, to go back, to replay. All of this information is vital and important for you to successfully complete your express entry profile and hopefully get an invitation to apply to become a permanent resident of Canada. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for being a trooper and sticking it out. But remember to like, subscribe, and share, because the information will benefit you and others looking to migrate to Canada. Have a wonderful day. Bye.